This week in health, Peeps marshmallows are getting canceled. Trans kids are losing their rights. Alcohol actually isn't that healthy. And there's a salmonella outbreak, so put down the cookies. All that and more on This Week in Health. Hello, my name is Ryan Kearns, and this is a new format that I'm trying. We're going to give you the best, the latest, and the greatest in health every week. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button below, and let's get started. First up, Peeps. The consumer research group called Consumer Reports is advocating for Peeps to change their ingredients because they have a very harmful ingredient inside marshmallow Peeps. Now, just in time for Easter Sunday, yell at your kids, smack them in the hands, and tell them to put down those Peeps because there's carcinogenic ingredients inside, especially one known as red dye 3. Okay, so red dye 3 is a known carcinogen. The FDA has actually disapproved of it or got rid of it in the cosmetic and topical lotions industry back in 1990. Yet it's still in over 3,000 food products that we put inside our body every single day. Can somebody please tell me how that makes sense? Why on earth would it not be okay to put on your skin, but it's okay to put it inside our body? Okay, so look, I have kids, and when I had my first kid, it changed the way I looked at life. See, I was always into health and wellness, but having a kid really made me shape my whole mindset around health. I wanted to live longer. I wanted to be healthier for a longer amount of time. And not only that, but I wanted to help her stay and be healthy. See, the really scary thing is my daughter was born in a scary situation where she was rushed to the NICU, that's newborn intensive care unit. So basically our baby was born and then rushed into the intensive care unit because she had some problems with her breathing. Now this scared the crap out of me and my wife, and we ended up really taking health seriously from then forward. So one really important thing that we learned in this case is to read labels that are on food products. Now, that is exactly what we need to do this Easter. As our kids are, it's tough. I empathize with all you parents. Kids, they want to eat candy. They want to have fun. You want them to have a great Easter. You want them to have their Easter basket with their candy and their Peeps and their fun candies and chocolates because they're kids. They're innocent. You want them to have that experience. But at the same time, you don't want to feed your kid cancer. So I completely sympathize, I empathize with those that are struggling with this back and forth in their head. But here's what I do. I read the label of every food product that my kids eat. And if it has red dye number 3 in it, I just switch it out for something else before they even see it. If you can do that, you can maybe avoid the potential harmful effects of red dye 3, which has been shown to cause cancer in mice in hundreds of studies. It's been banned by the FDA for cosmetics and for topical lotions, but for some reason, they continue to let us put it in our body. Probably has something to do with the food companies and the candy companies lobbying to be able to add this very cheap ingredient into their product rather than using natural ways to dye their products red, right? Or pink or purple or anything that needs red. The truth is, there's natural means of doing this now. There are a lot of natural ways to dye things a certain color, and the dye is not useful. I mean, a marshmallow still tastes like a marshmallow, whether it's white or whether it's red. So it just doesn't make sense to me why we would want to put these carcinogens inside our food. Peeps, change your ingredients because we don't want our kids eating carcinogenic ingredients. Speaking of kids, a lot of states are banning gender-affirming healthcare for transgender kids. This is going to be my opinion on that matter. Now, listen, I'm not political. I don't care. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm actually a registered independent because I believe in free thinking and looking at both sides of every argument. I understand the arguments that they have here for the mental health of transgender kids and people that think they want to transition. Now, for those of you that don't know what gender affirming healthcare means, it means things like puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgeries for people who think they're transgender. Now, what's happening is certain states such as Texas, I don't remember all the states, but they're banning it for ages 13 to 17. Now, my thoughts on this, I have 2 kids, right? And I would say that is absolutely a good idea to ban for those age groups. Now, I know this might not be a popular opinion, and frankly, I don't care. Age 13 to 17, your brain hasn't developed yet, okay? Your frontal lobe is not fully developed until you're 25 years old. Now, the health reasons that experts claim to have about specific cases for people to be able to have this type of healthcare is they say it reduces mental health issues. It reduces things like anxiety and depression and all of, sadness, and it allows people to be who they truly are. Look, I understand that argument. However, I don't know if you've ever been a teenager before. Every single one of us is dealing with anxiety and depression and trying to fit in and trying to find ourselves and trying to be ourselves when we're teenagers. Okay? So just because your kid wakes up one day and says they want to be a girl instead of a boy doesn't mean you should go chop off his dick and change his entire gender before he even has a fully formed frontal lobe to make insane decisions like that. Okay? You can't just jump at whatever the kid says and say that that's his reality. I think there's a lot of people doing this because it's like a new cool thing to do. It's like a new thing to do. Not the kids, the parents, right? They want to be cool. They want their kids to love them. They want to go along for the ride. They want to be progressive. But what you're doing is you're taking a child's health away from them. When you start to replace their hormones, you are jacking up their thyroid and their hormones forever. You are changing their health forever when they're 13 years old. That's sad. That's disgusting. That's not okay. That's not something where we can say, oh, it's for the betterment of this individual. That's not true. It's not for the betterment of them, even if they think that it is. Even if the child thinks that they want to be a boy when they're a girl or they want to be a girl when they're a boy, doesn't mean we have to feed into that. Doesn't mean we have to go and pay for a surgery or for a hormone replacement therapy or for puberty blockers to absolutely change their body forever. There's thousands of stories, maybe not thousands, but there's a lot of stories of individuals who went through this at a young age, and now that they're older and more, knowledgeable and have more wisdom and have more experience, and oh yeah, their frontal lobe is fully formed, they say, I never should have done it. I never should have went through this process. Yet we're here saying, oh, they should have the rights to that health care at the age of 13 to 17. Why do you care if a child can make this decision? Wouldn't it be okay if you said anybody can make this decision, they just have to be 18? Or in my mind, they have to be 25. Because that's when our brain is fully developed, right? We wouldn't let our child decide they want to smoke weed, so they're going to be allowed to smoke weed at 13 to 17 years old. I mean, maybe some parents would, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't let my kids make that decision and be completely okay with it. I would inform them about the harmful effects this has on their brain. Some doctors think that mental health is extremely tied to the only organ that has to do with our thoughts and our mental capacity, our brain. What if some of these kids are dealing with things like infections, or they're dealing with mold toxicity in their brain, and they're having this gender dysphoria, and then we come in and chop off their dick or turn their vagina into a penis, and then all of a sudden, now they're stuck with this forever. Meanwhile, it was just because they had an infection in their brain, right? There's way more to this. This is not a simple thing that some people are making it seem like, oh, they want this, so give it to them. Like, no. When my kids want candy every single day, does that mean I give them candy every single time they ask for it? No. And it doesn't matter if they're 13 or 17 or 9 or 8. or 16. None of that. The age doesn't matter. If you're living in my house, there's rules here. Parents are the ultimate responsibility at the end of this. And it's our job to be responsible for our children and to not destroy their bodies just because they have gender dysphoria, which is a mental health issue. It's not a physical health issue. They will survive as a girl if they want to be, if they were born a girl. They will survive as a boy if they were born a boy. Yes, there is a suicide risk and there's a mental health risk. And there's a mental health risk for every single kid that ever lived. There's a mental health risk for all of us every single day. It doesn't mean we have to go and sign off on creating major harm in this kid's life before they are fully formed, before they have the brain capacity to even make a large decision like this. That's my opinion on the matter. It's based on everything I've learned over the years of learning about health and wellness. Take it as you will. If you hate me because I said this, well, that's okay. If you love that I'm telling the truth, that's good too. I just believe in freedom of speech, and I'm going to say what I believe. And I have 2 kids. If my kids are 13 to 17 years old and they tell me they want to be the opposite gender, I'll say that's great, but you're not. Sorry. You were born a boy. You were born a girl. I have a daughter and a son. When you have a daughter and a son, they understand gender on a different plane. A lot of times I see that it's only children that want to change their gender. When you have a daughter and a son, they can see the differences plain as day between a girl and a boy. It's just natural. Nobody's pushing them towards certain things because they're a boy and because they're a girl. There's not these weird societal norms that people talk about. I haven't recognized it. My son came into a world where there was a girl and all of the toys in the house were for a girl. And he just has a different way of looking at the world than my daughter just by happenstance. It's not like we're like, hey, here's trucks, here's, guns, here's, like people say. We're not pushing things like that at him. He's just naturally more drawn towards trucks and towards bad guys and killing bad guys, where my daughter's more drawn towards, playing with dolls, keeping things alive, having a pet cat, a pet puppy, keeping things surviving, caring and nurturing for things. These are gender roles that are just part of nature. If my kid decided he didn't want to be a certain gender, or she didn't want to be a certain gender, it doesn't mean I'm going to go give them drugs or hormone therapy or puberty blockers or go through a surgery because they're a child. They can't make that decision. I hope this makes sense to some people, and I know it won't for others. All right, let's put the kids to bed and talk about alcohol. It's not going to help you live longer, not even in moderation. New studies are finding that even in moderation, it has an increased risk of death at an earlier age. In fact, they saw that there was a 19% increased risk of early death for people that have 3 drinks per week. Per day, which is a lot. But some people like to report that drinking moderately or drinking in low amounts is actually healthy for you and good for you. And I think there's some context that needs to be given here. If you're talking about it's good for you because you're in social settings, you're at the bar, you're having time with friends, that is the healthy part, not the alcohol itself, which is shown now without a shadow of a doubt that basically any alcohol is a risk. It's a poison. It hurts the body, and that's all there is to it. But now it's been proven through studies over and over again. But this is something that many of the world's top doctors with large podcasts and large shows here on YouTube and on, different channels like Dr. Andrew Huberman, Dr. Peter Attia, all these doctors, if you haven't heard of them, look them up. Great guys, love all their content. They've been saying this forever. Drinking is just not good for you in any amount. But now there's a new study that came out that just kind of reaffirms that belief. So make sure that if you're drinking, you're doing it for a purpose, right? Like, do it because you're with all your friends and you haven't seen them in a long time and you want to hang out with them and have a good time and have some laughs. Don't do it because you're bored on a Saturday afternoon. So you've got to pick and choose your drinks. And also, I like something that Peter Attia, I heard him say on the Tim Ferriss podcast, which was that he only drinks if it tastes absolutely amazing. He had a story about a time where he dumped out a drink because it tasted terrible. That's a good rule of thumb because it displays the idea that if you're not enjoying the drinking, if you're not enjoying the drink itself, it's really not worth putting your health on the line. And I totally agree with that sentiment. I personally, when I was healing from Lyme disease, which if you've been a part of this channel for any amount of time, you've seen me talk about Lyme disease. I actually quit drinking altogether when I was healing from Lyme disease. It's something I recommend to all of my health coaching clients that work with me, is to quit drinking because the health effects are just numerous, right? It messes up our sleep, it hurts our brain, dehydrate. There's just a ton of different factors that come into play. Blood pressure, it messes things up. So what we want to do is avoid drinking unless it makes complete sense and it's going to add to your life in some way in certain circumstances. Now, obviously, you have to live your life, right? You can't just always be super strict and super, on the ball with everything in your health. But when you're caring about your health more than other things, it'll be easy to cut the alcohol. At least that's what I've found. Personally, I haven't drinking now in about 3 months. I do it when I see my dad for the first time in a long time, have a couple of beers, have a conversation over some beers, and that's completely normal. And, I wouldn't trade that because it's something that we enjoy to do together. It's fun. We have funny conversations, we laugh, and then it's over. It's not something where it's like we're binge drinking for days and days, or I stay up super late to drink out with a bunch of people, or I go bar hopping or any of that stuff. Those days are over back in my 20s. So if you're a drinker, consider slowing it down if you want to live longer. And now we know for a fact that it increases your risk of premature death. And finally, the CDC is reporting and investigating a Salmonella outbreak that has been linked to flour. So, sorry, this Easter Sunday, you might want to put down those cookies because the flour apparently is causing a Salmonella outbreak. Salmonella symptoms include things like diarrhea and bloody stools and vomiting, and it is a hell of a sickness that basically is just food poisoning. So if you get food poisoning and you think back and you remember eating something with flour in it, you had salmonella. So sorry kids, no Peeps, no cookies, no alcohol. We are the fun destroying show on YouTube. Thank you for watching. No, I'm just kidding. But that is very interesting, right? All the stuff I just said is kind of like, put down the candy, put down the cookies, put down the alcohol, put down the transgenderness, right? I'm like a fun destroying podcast, and that is not my intent at all. But I am here to share the health news of the week. I'm just here to share whatever I can, give my perspective, and help you learn about these topics. Now, I do plan on having some guests on the show to talk about certain health topics and also talk about, ways that we can become the healthiest, most optimal performing versions of ourselves. If you have any ideas for guests, put them in the comments section below. Really want this channel to be a place where people come to become the healthiest version of themselves and to learn how to optimize their health. So if you're here to do that, I love it. Hit the subscribe button below. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and let's get some comments going. Let's get some community involvement. Let's grow something together here, because it can be an awesome place where we all learn and grow from each other and become the healthiest version of ourselves. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. My name is Ryan Kearns. See you next time. Bye-bye.